Alright guys, welcome back to another video. Today we are in the F-16 again, just like yesterday. We are fighting again an F-14, but this time the F-14 is controlled by a player. It's controlled by Longshot, and he's going to be flying the Tomcat for us today, and he's going to throw some Phoenix missiles at me, and I'm going to try to show that the same concepts that apply to the AI fight apply here as well, regardless of, you know, who's firing the missiles. The problem was that the Phoenix missile seemed very daunting, and people are scared of it because of its range and its speed. And although those are, you know, fairly important factors to consider, the fact that the seeker head is not as good as an AMRAAM is really what's going to make the difference between who's going to win in the F-16 versus the F-14. Now, the one thing I want to talk about a little bit is the advantages that make the F-16 superior to the F-14, in my opinion. One of them is the superior data link and the helmet-mounted sight in case of a merge, and also the fact that the missiles can't be notched as easily as a Phoenix missile. The notch window for the AMRAAM, especially the Charlie variant, is much smaller than the Phoenix missile. And this major weakness in the missile is actually a huge advantage to anybody fighting the F-14 who understands the concept of notching and has practiced it enough that they can get into the notch really quickly. At first, notching was difficult for me too. And, you know, some of the real pros of DCS, you know who you are. You guys can really hit the notches really nicely. I've seen people dodge Phoenix missiles as close as 5 miles because they can just hit the notch quickly. And the Phoenix missile, as soon as it's blind, it can't hit anything. That's much harder to do with an AMRAAM. And the concept here is just that the F-14, you know, can be defeated by the F-16. The F-16 is very much a match for the F-14. It is not to say that every time a Viper fights a Tomcat, the Viper will win. That's not what it's, you know, what's being implied here. If you mess up your notch, the Phoenix missile will hit you. And the one thing I really want to avoid in this video is the fanboyism of the Tomcat and the Viper. You know, just because you're a fanboy of the Tomcat or you're a fanboy of the Viper, of which, you know, I much prefer the Tomcat. I grew up in the 90s. I love the Tomcat. But you have to look at it objectively. The Tomcat does have major weaknesses, as it should. It's from the 70s. Aspects of it are just not as easy to handle as the Viper. The helmet-mounted sight is a huge advantage to the Viper if the Viper can force a merge, which is actually not that hard if you know how to notch, right? So the concepts we're going to be talking about today are very much similar to the concepts we talked about in the last video. We're going to constantly sling AMRAAMs at him from a high Mach, high altitude position, hoping one of them hits him, and if they don't hit him, at the very least we'll keep him busy long enough so that we can notch and continually turn in and fire AMRAAMs at him, keep him busy until we can get to a merge position. If we're lucky enough to have one of our AMRAAMs hit him before the merge, that's even better. And so you can see here we have the Tomcat locked up now at 74 miles. We are almost at 40,000 feet, just shy, and we are sitting at a Mach 1.34 to Mach 1.35. So at this point the Tomcat is doing the math in his head. He's saying, hey, I have an F-16 who's high altitude, very fast. If he fires an AMRAAM at me, the battery life of the AMRAAM means that he can probably smoke me from 60 miles if I don't defend in one way or another. So he's doing this math in his head. I'm going to give him an AMRAAM, and he's going to be forced to defend it. While he's defending the AMRAAM, I'm going to defend the Phoenix missile via a notch. And I'm going to continually do that. I'm going to turn my head in, my nose in, and I'm going to fire another one, and I'm going to notch again. Alright, so there's the Phoenix missile we've been waiting for. That's incoming now. And there's our Fox 3, and we're going to start offsetting to the left-hand side, reducing our altitude. Once again, not to bleed the energy of the Phoenix missile. Actually, we might be able to bleed its energy. He did shoot it from 60 miles, so that's possible with the crank. But, you know, we're going to drop the altitude in order to make it easier to notch the F-14. We want to be below his radar so we can use ground clutter where possible. And so here we are in the offset, and around 40-ish miles separation to the Tomcat, I'm going to hit the notch. and that should keep me safe from the Phoenix missile. You know, as intimidating as it is, it's a giant missile and it'll disintegrate you, but as long as you hit the notch, it's toothless. It can't do anything against you. Okay, so here we go on the notch. Wait for it. Slowly getting into it. There's the chaff drop. And the sun is now blocking my RWR. And there you go. No more Phoenix missile. We're going to go ahead and turn in. Pick him up again on radar here. And stick around for the Tacview because I'll really get into this there. But here we go. Looking for the lock again. There it is. And Fox 3. Alright, we're going to keep the nose hot attitude as long as he hasn't fired on us. And this is an attempt to get to the merge a little bit quicker. I'm trying to close the gap between me and him. There's the launch. I'm going to go ahead and get into that notch position. That's an RWR blind spot. That's why I can't hear it. And I actually wasn't paying attention there, and I overextended a little bit. We kind of went through the notch, but I took it a little too far. Already the RWR is gone. There's no more missiles, so I've turned back in. Once again to lock the F-14 here. He's slightly off to my right side. Let's get him on radar. A little bit low now, so you can see he's dropped his altitude. He was forced to defend multiple AMRAAMs. And here we go again. He's fired on me. Fox 3 to keep him busy. I don't want to let him push me. And we're going to go back into the notch. And this starts to get pretty frustrating if you're a Tomcat pilot to see a guy constantly hit the notch like this. And there's nothing you can do about it. It does get frustrating. And like I said, it's one of the huge weaknesses of the F-14. It works in PvP, it works in AI. You just have to practice the notching. It's not that big of a deal. And you can see that Phoenix missile did come off. It did track temporarily, but you can see it's already dumb. Looks like it's hitting the ground now. So I'm going to turn back in. No RWR notification. Now he's got me locked up again. And I got him locked up here. Got him at 11 miles now. We're going to close a little bit closer. Okay, Fox 3, and we're down to Sidewinders only. And he's fired something. No RWR, so that's probably a Fox 2. Go ahead and defend that.
Altitude.
And throw on the flares. Don't hit the ground.
Pull up. Pull up.
Throw on the flares, flares. Okay, there's the flares. And we'll turn back in. And got him now at 5 miles. Locked. Fox 2. And he also has fired again, defending his incoming missile. That goes vertical, so no problem there. And splash 1 Tomcat. There he goes. No time to eject either. He was really low to the ground. Alright, there you have it. It's the Viper. All I'm saying is the Viper is competitive against the Tomcat. It can really give the Tomcat a hard time. Okay guys, a quick little Tacview review. We got our F-16 and long shot in the blue or the red F-14. And so I'm trying to hit the correct launch parameters. So you see me climbing up to a decent Mach speed. I had 2 tanks and you can see me dropping them here. And you know, altitude above 43,000 feet in this situation here. Above 40,000 is really where you can, you know, sling the AMRAAMs the maximum amount. We've done videos in the past testing that. Around 40,000 feet, Mach 1.4, Mach 1.5, and you can really throw AMRAAMs around 60 miles. The limiting factor being the battery life of the AMRAAM. It should still reach 60 miles and still have a speed of Mach 2 point something. So the AMRAAM very capable of going, you know, more than 60 miles, but the battery dies. So you can see here we've reached parameters of Mach 1.5 at an altitude of around 43,000 feet, which you can't see here, but 43,000 feet, 60 miles, and this is when he shoots, which is very common on, you know, server situations. 60 miles is about the maximum range shot you see a Tomcat taking, with a decent probability of kills. Not great. 60 miles, not great, but it's decent. If the guy's not paying attention, 60 miles, you could definitely hit him in the face. Or if he is paying attention but doesn't understand the concepts of, you know, defending incoming missiles, you could definitely hit him from 60 miles. Here's my launch as well. So it's interesting because we both launch at about the same time. And the concept here is just we want to see how capable the Viper is against the Tomcat. Because for the longest time, the Tomcat was very much a feared aircraft in DCS. But we'll see how the Viper, you know, stacks up to it at this point. You can see the crank offset here. This is mostly necessary because it increases the flight time of the missile, especially from 60 miles. It actually does contribute to bleeding the missile's energy. And also, the most important part is that it maintains a gimbal lock for your AMRAAM so that you can guide it all the way to target. And you can see here my AMRAAM fairly decent, fairly close to the F-14 here, and it's going to be, look at this, Mach 2.5. That Phoenix missile has gone stupid now. I'm Mach 2.5, Phoenix missile is sitting at Mach 2.3, right? And look at this, already gone stupid for the chaff. I've hit the 90-degree notch position. I kind of explained basically what a notch is in the last video. And he's fired a second one. Unfortunately, my missile battery dies. It was kind of a long shot. And so we both recommitted at this point, and you can see he's fired his AIM 54 and I fired my AIM 120. Now, as far as I know, the F-16 had a bug very recently where if you broke lock before pitbull, the missile went stupid. I'm unaware if ED has fixed that. I don't know. But it does kind of seem like they haven't. So anyway, let's get rid of the labels at this point. You can see this is now gone for chaff. Like, you can just see F-16 flying along, hit the notch, survive that first missile, which, you know, decent speed, Mach 2.3, recommit, get a missile off, back into the notch to survive this missile. And then there's a third missile here. It actually gets tracked but doesn't have the energy state, nor does it actually see me. It goes for chaff. And the fourth Phoenix missile, and that hits the ground because I was already in a notch. I think that missile just couldn't see me when it was fired. So I saw a couple of comments in the last video, people being like, you were able to notch it because he fired it at 30 miles. What? At 60 miles, if anything, it's easier to notch at 60 miles, and then also at 60 miles, you know, it's got less speed. They were saying that if you launch at 60 miles, the probability of kill is higher than 30. I don't know where the logic of that comes from, but if, you know, you're closer, your missile's got a decent PK at 30 miles. At 60 miles, that's this missile. Still airborne, but it's trash. And honestly, a lot of people will, you know, knowing that they're fighting a Tomcat, they'll start notching here just because they're assuming there's a missile coming from 60 miles, you know? And anyway, so at this point, regardless of where you launch the Phoenix missile, this is what I'm trying to say, regardless of where the Tomcat launches the Phoenix missile, if you understand how to notch, you're safe. He'll never hit you. Okay, the AMRAAM is much, much harder to notch. And so there you go. There's 3 or 4, what was that, 4 Phoenixes now? And Here we are recommitted. At this point, like, we've notched the merge. We are in the merge situation. You can see we're 10 miles out, getting closer and closer. Both nose hot. There's an AMRAM. He fires a Fox 2. My AMRAM goes for the chaff. This is actually interesting. This is not something you see often. I should have killed him right here probably. But that thing bites off on chaff. And it's gone. And he's going to come around for a recommit. I'm going to recommit. I fire Fox 2. He fires Fox 2. Mine hits him. And I survive. So, once again, in my personal opinion, the F-16 is superior to the F-14 in BVR just because of its ease of use. AMRAMs that once ED fixes the bug will be much easier, will be much harder to defeat. And also the fact that it has a better data link and HMD. So when you do notch to merge, when you do merge, you have a major advantage over the F-14. Alright guys, that's going to be the video for today. Thank you for watching. Big thank you to Longshot for helping out. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.